Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you guys ready? Okay, let's serve Uganda. As promised, we deliver. We are redefining the social media narrative, asking tough questions and holding your leaders accountable. We are non-partisan and break down having a conversation with Uganda.
We are the Mighty Drive. We hold debates that give you viable solutions. We bring to people that Ivora is wanted to listen to. We are gender sensitive and give space to the unheard voices. Not forgetting the quote of the day.
We are live on our social media platforms, The Alternative Uganda on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter from Monday to Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Don't miss the debate behind the wheels and studios.
I am Edgar Matthew Karuhanga.
And Princess Luwe Delidian.
Expect in-depth analysis, credible, factual and authentic information. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
We thank you for joining us again. It is the hotline show on the Alternative Dig Talk that is running straight on your phones and using through our social media platforms, the Alternative Uganda. My name is Abdalla Tiff Mukasa, and here I am again with the hotline show, trying to look at the political coalitions in Africa and how they have been effective. And then, yes, I've been given another term, how useful have they been? In most cases, you see that when you move to different countries in Africa, much as there was need to get independence and, of course, change in leadership, you find that many countries, Uganda inclusive, of course, much as there was the independence, the transfer of power from the white man to the indigenous citizens, it is unfortunate that many of the indigenous citizens have been worse than the white man. This is really shocking. But we have not lost hope. We still believe there is room for Africa to become a better continent, to become a better place for all the black people. Well, in Africa, we've seen a number of coalitions taking shape. And of course, their effectiveness, their usefulness remains a question to be answered by the experts like the one I am having today in the studios. Well, I would love to take the honor to introduce the guest who has joined us today. Actually, I have two guests who have joined us today, and they will be sharing with us their insights and their views and what they think should be done to make Africa a greater continent than it is. You see, this is everyone's need. This is everyone's interest. Much as we seem to be seeing some sort of progress, the question of leadership and governance in Africa still is a very critical question that calls for intensive and thorough kind of research to find out how this question can be handled. If you come to Uganda, of course, the dynamics are different. If you go to almost everywhere, you find that there is a question that has not been answered. There is a question that has not been tackled in the right way. My name is Abdalla Tiff, once again, like I said, and I'd love to introduce my guest. I am privileged. I have Ambassador Edith Ssempala. She's here with us in the studios. You're welcome, Ambassador, and please, you can say hi to the viewers.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening. Can I call you Tiff?
Please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very delighted to be here tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Madam Edith Ssempala, she's currently a member of the Alliance for National Transition, and she heads the Women's League. I want to believe so. Yes, so it is really a pleasure to have you, and we thank you for making time to join us this evening. Well, we need to look at political coalitions in Africa. I need to introduce another guest. We have another guest who is online. She's called Madam Winnie Bortha. She's a journalist, a senior journalist. She's based in Malawi. I just need Winnie to say just a word to the viewers so that they get to know that you're also part of the show.
Hello, my name is Winnie Bortha, as introduced. I'm from Malawi, and thank you for having me on the program.
Thank you so much. Yes. That is Madam Winnie Bortha. She's a senior journalist in Malawi. She's based in Blantyre, and she will be sharing also her experience or the experience as a country as far as political coalitions is concerned. Well, we're looking at political coalitions in this. Of course, we are focusing on Uganda and a few other African countries where we can benchmark those, of course, which have been successful. We all know that for 35 years now, there have been attempts to see that there is change in leadership. And all the efforts seem not to be yielding. We don't know what could be the problem. Maybe that will be for another time. Now, if we try to go back in 1962 here in Uganda, that is just precisely before independence, there was a coalition that manifested. And though for those who were lucky enough to witness that, I am very sure they witnessed it. That is Kabaka Yeka and the UPC coalition. Of course, there was some sort of achievement because there was some sort of working together, in the government, much as that kind of arrangement did not last. By 1964, it had collapsed. Reason being that there were many differences. There were no ideological, similarities. And this could be one of the reasons that such a coalition could not work. And of course, in 1966, Uganda as a country, still we witnessed another coalition. 1973, where we had the Fronasa, which was headed by Mr. Museveni, and then the Chikosi Maalum, which was by Milton Obote, which worked together with the government of Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere to see that they really work together to uproot the dictatorship of the time. That is President Idi Amin. Of course, that worked, but again, after a very short time, it also collapsed. Of course, many have come up. We also had the Popular Resistance Army. That is when, after the 1980 elections in Uganda, we saw that we saw Mr. Museveni going to the bush under the Popular Resistance Army. And then there was another coalition that is between PRA and the Uganda Freedom Fighters, which was headed by Yusuf Lule. Of course, it also worked for a short time. I don't want to say whether it is lucky enough or unlucky enough, or fortunately or unfortunately. When Yusuf Lule passed on in 1982, of course, Mr. Museveni was the vice chairperson, and then he was deputizing Yusuf Lule. This deal was signed in Nairobi. And so many people think that if Yusuf Lule had not, if he survived, maybe this coalition would take a different shape. And of course, even to the current times that we've been able to witness, that is, we had the IPC, which also didn't work. We had the TDA, it failed to work, and a number of such arrangements. Madam Edith, what is your take? Do you still believe these political coalitions are relevant and they can cause the change that people need, not only just taking over power, but moving forward to the values that brought these different political actors together to create a coalition? What's your take on this?
Yeah, thank you very much for this topic. I think this is a very timely topic.
Thank you.
Because we have a history that is very rich with those kind of coalitions that actually did not work.
True.
Because if a coalition lasts only 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, really it is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But also it gives a false hope that something is going to work, and then of course it doesn't work. So it is important to ask ourselves, why don't these coalitions work?
Yeah.
I believe that they do not work. For anything to work, it has to have a foundation.
Yeah.
And that foundation must be solid. And in our case, we believe that a good foundation must be anchored in values of integrity, values of respect, values of farsightedness. Because right now, when you look at it, it is just coalitions, or they look like coalitions aimed at short term and really no gain specifically for the citizens, but sharing the spoils of power. So if you look at all the coalitions that we have had, they were coalitions of convenience. They wanted to achieve certain objectives, very short term.
Basically to get rid of the existing leader.
Get rid of something, but not for something.
Not for sustainability. Really.
Yes, not for something. So if they had or given themselves even time to discuss and build a strong foundation for the future, then I think they would be beneficial. But they achieve the short term in most cases, the short term is achieved. But then the medium and long term is lost because it was not there in the first place. Yeah. So I think that is the biggest, that is the problem. And I think that is the challenge that must occupy our minds today. Because leaders, individuals, they come and go. But, if you build something that can last, that can transcend, individuals, then that can last. And that would be good. So, in short, therefore, the coalitions would be good. They actually function. They achieve certain objectives in Europe, especially. But in Africa, they have not worked. They have not yielded good fruits.
Well, if you go to a few countries like maybe say Malawi. Sorry, no. I think let me first talk about Liberia. If you go to Liberia, this is a country which was previously dominated by two parties. That is the Congress for Democratic Change and then the National Patriotic Party. And if you remember when the current president, George Weah Mane came, he made his first attempt with Salif, and then things didn't work out. So the next time, that was around 2017, he came with a new strategy. And this he chose to work with, they created a coalition that was between the Congress for Democratic Change, which was headed by actually the party for President Weah, and then there was National Patriotic Party, which was headed by Charles Taylor, and now the wife. So what Weah did was to create that coalition, and indeed it worked for them because there was even power sharing. So when George Weah took over, then he had to appoint Madame Jamie. She's called the lady, the first lady, the former first lady to Charles Taylor. You know, she's now the current vice president. Don't you think these are some of the things we should critically look at? Besides, you know, struggling to oust the regime, and then after ousting the regime, you know, it's like the citizens are left. They're not part of these conversations.
Exactly.
Yes. Why is it so? Should we say there is much of selfishness amongst the politicians, you inclusive, because you're among those people who are really striving to see that Uganda becomes different from what it is today?
Yeah, I think that you talked about sharing posts or positions in government, and therefore the benefits that come with it, or the benefits to themselves, but not benefits to the population.
Citizens, yes.
So that is the problem. That is the problem, because you see, as a continent, as countries, we never had an opportunity to build a foundation for democracy and sustainable development, because in most cases, the founding fathers, really, many of them did not. They were not preoccupied with that.
Yeah.
So because we don't have a foundation, we shall continue to crumble. Whatever comes will come for a short time and then go. So that is why we need a new mindset that, you know, say here in Uganda, after this regime, our preoccupation must be to build a foundation based on institutions and systems, strong
and
institutions, functioning, strong institutions and systems anchored in values.
Yeah.
So if we have that, and they are solid, because right now you can see even in these coalitions, they are around individuals.
Yeah.
And anything that is around an individual is bound to fail. You know, yes, leadership is very, very important, but it must not, we must be founded on values, on institutions that are strong, that are functional, and systems. Because look at other countries, say, you know, Italy. Sometimes they don't even have a leader. But the system works until they get until a leader is elected. I mean, in Uganda, if we didn't have a leader even one day, it would be chaotic. You know.
Well, I think, Ambassador, we're going to keep it at that. We need to go to Comrade Winnie Bortha to also share with us. But before Winnie comes in, I would like to apologize to our viewers. We're expecting Honorable Mukasambide. To be honest, we don't know what happened, though he had confirmed his presence. Unfortunately, we are afraid to get in touch with him, and please accept our apologies. And then we also were expecting Honorable Nelson Chamisa from Zimbabwe, the leader of opposition on that side. Unfortunately, he has also got other engagements, so we are unable to be with him on the show. But maybe next time we will be able to have them on board. Well, we need to go to Winnie Bortha. You need to tell us your experience, what is happening in Malawi. I remember you had that controversial kind of election that shaped really, it gave a new trajectory to, you know, on the African continent, especially with the judicial system. That is the time when elections were nullified. And then we saw His Excellency Mutharika, you know, being evicted from, you know, of course it was through democratic means. And then we saw the long-term rival, that is Lazarus Chakwera, being ushered into as the new president for Malawi. Well, when we talk about political coalitions, Winnie, we need to get your experience as a country. Malawi, did you have such experiences? How was it? How easy was it for Chakwera to really take over honor His Excellency Mutharika? Please share with us your experience and how it happened.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. As you rightly put it, that it was a coalition that had to unseat the then president Peter Mutharika, because this was more like a re-election after courts nullified the 2019 elections.
Yeah.
So in 2019, Mutharika got about 83%, you can just say close to 85% of the vote. So he was elected. And then Erasmus came second with about 80% of the vote. And then we had Silas Chidima, who came third. So the opposition basically divided their vote. And then once the court knocked the elections, the opposition go back to the board. And to be honest, without a coalition, it would have been not possible for Mutharika to make office. So the coalition really helped unseat President Mutharika, because after the coalition, the candidate for the coalition, Winnie Bortha, got almost 60% of the vote. And Peter Mutharika retained the 35% of the polls. So, yeah, the coalition helped to unseat the then president. So, but going back to how effective this coalition has been in Malawi, it's not the first time for us as a country to have a coalition. We've had coalitions, the opposition coming together, presenting a candidate through a coalition, but they never made it. This was the first time for us to see the opposition and sitting the incumbent through a coalition. This was probably the most powerful coalition. Unfortunately, they proved to be that it was just for convenience purposes, as the previous speaker put it. So they were, yes.
Winnie, I think you need to tell us what is that which was done differently, like you said. There were such coalitions before, and you know, the opposition trying to come together. Fortunately, this time when they did it, they had to really hit the jackpot. So what is that which was done differently that was not being done in the previous attempts? Of course, this could maybe also try to guide other countries which are trying to struggling to see that their coalitions really work.
Actually, I think the first election that happened in 2019, the first general election, each candidate had to stand on their own. The first election had no coalition. So I think that we must test, because from the results of that 2019 elections, these candidates were able to see how much votes, how much percentages they got from that 2019 vote. I think that gave them an idea that if we can go into a coalition, they are going to win. So the first election that was nullified was more like a litmus test for and they used it to go to the drawing board to see that if we got 30% and then the third person got 20-something percentage of the vote. So going together against Peter Mutharika, we're gonna win. So I think that's how the opposition got it this time, because they were given a chance. We went to the elections first, and then the poll was nullified. So that was more like a litmus test for them, and this helped them to go back into the drawing board. And then it became obvious that if they go into a coalition, they're going to win. So I don't think there is a formula out there, but for this coalition in Malawi, it became obvious because who came third and that one the candidate who came second and the candidate who came third, they had a good number of votes also. So it became obvious that if they go as a coalition, they would win. Yeah.
Winnie, I think we'll be getting back to you. I think there is something to learn from what Winnie is telling us. It's like when the elections were nullified, of course, there was a rerun. And all these other voices, the opposition voices that, of course, with their followings, they chose like, no, let's all stand behind one person. I think that is a good gesture that I doubt if well, I don't want to doubt, but, well, what do you pick from what Winnie is sharing with us?
Yeah, I think it is a good thing. It is a good thing to have a short-term objective, because the short term can help realize the medium and long term. But if all you have is a short term, then it is not sustainable. Yeah. Because that has been really the challenge of these coalitions in Africa.
Yeah.
that they achieve short-term objectives, but they are not sustainable, and therefore they end up in a disappointment for the population. So I think it is good. I think, I am happy that it happened in Malawi.
Yes.
And maybe then we can start having some good examples, because the more countries in Africa become sustainably, democratic, the better for us.
Yeah.
The better for us. So it is very, very important that that we get more countries that show us become some kind of role models.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Edith, and to our viewers. It is the Hotline Show looking at political coalitions in Africa and their effectiveness. She added something, and how about their usefulness? I think we will be getting back to Winnie just in a few minutes ahead to tell us whether that coalition, besides taking over power, it's also working to, to achieve their promises to the entire citizens. You see, like you rightly put it, in most cases, these coalitions come up, people promise heaven on earth, and then at the end of it, when they get there, things happen to change. Like when you remember Mr. Museveni in 1986, I am very sure he was a darling, and you were among those who really believed that, yes, this is God sent.
Yes.
Yeah, but along the way, you one by one started breaking off, and like, no, I think he's taking us to a wrong direction. After promising, and everyone was like, yes, he actually would have come maybe like 20 years back during that time. So unfortunately, it is now a different story. But now, like someone who is heading a league of women in a political party that is aspiring to change the political discussion in this country, you have a new agenda, you have a fresh agenda for this country, you have plans, there is a way you look at things and you're like, well, this would be done in such and such a way, and of course not happening as you would wish it to be. What is your plan? Do you intend, we've actually had these, if I refer to the previous elections that we had in early January, the way, of course, the discussion was not so much tense to have a coalition, but towards the end we saw something similar to that. I don't know whether it was late or it was it was a discussion for something else. I really don't know. Do you think such coalitions, it's something like the ANT would really wish to be part of?
Yeah.
Before you come in, maybe for other online viewers, especially those outside Uganda, when we talk of ANT, it's a political party in the country, in Uganda, which is called the Alliance for National Transition, and that is the party, the Alliance for National Transformation. Oh, I beg your pardon. Alliance for National Transformation, and that is the party where Ambassador Edith is one of the senior leaders, and she heads the Women's League. Yeah, do you think this is something the ANT would really wish that maybe it should be considered for basically to achieve your agenda? I know you have a lot for this country in stock.
Yeah, first and foremost, ANT does not want just to have a conversation. A conversation must lead to something tangible for the people of Uganda. We have, as I said earlier, a very checkered but rich history to learn from if we are capable of learning. We have had changes before. You have talked about the coalitions that were in 62, 79, 85, and so forth and so on. But, the coalitions that we have had have not yielded sweet fruits for the people of Uganda. They have actually yielded somehow bitter fruits. So therefore, really, we must ask ourselves, what is it that happened? Why have we been in this vicious cycle, and how do we break it? So for us, therefore, that is why our party is founded own values, values of integrity. Integrity is very, very important, because without integrity, you can promise and not deliver. You can say one thing and do a different thing. And that is what we have been seeing here in this country. And so, you know, and okay, you can say, but how do we know? How do we know you in ANT are serious about it? You know, I think that is a fair question that should be asked. Yeah, and I think there's no way you can look at our hearts, because the hearts are hidden. You know, only God can see the hearts. But you can see the track record of you know, somebody's integrity, because we all have been around. No one dropped from heaven. So everybody's track record is known. You know,
Ambassador,
if, for instance,
just to chip in a little bit, when you talk over the track records, I think for the viewers, for the viewers in and outside the country, I understand the party president of the ANT. Is that the title?
Actually, our system is different.
Yes, okay. So
it is different.
The national coordinator?
No.
Yes.
Actually, he's not a national coordinator anymore, because our constitution says that once you become a presidential or you aspire for political office, then you forfeit. You cease being a chairperson, right now called coordinator, national coordinator. The purpose for that and the reason for that is that we want to build a solid party.
Okay, I want to put it right.
Somebody who will be, you know, just be focusing on building the party.
I want to put it right. Like, if okay.
And therefore,
thanks for your guidance.
But General Muntu is a senior leader. He was a presidential candidate. And he's our leader.
Well, I think that the point I want to make is that you talked over integrity, and there is no way people could get into your hearts to know that what Ambassador Edith Ssempala says is really, you know, she speaks what she means, and maybe what General Mugisha Muntu says is what she, you know, is what he means. For the record, and you have been part of this government for quite a while, I want to believe so. Just like General Mugisha Muntu, who is the founding leader for, you know, for ANT.
Yes.
Of course, one would say, like, how long did it take you to discover that you're into a system which has no proper trajectory for this country?
Personally, it took me long, far too long.
You were hoodwinked, or what happened?
I believe that, you know, I believed that people say what they mean. It took me a bit of time to realize that people can say one thing and do a different thing.
Okay.
So, and I think because I was preoccupied with representing Uganda and making sure that Uganda gets benefits.
And believing the hopes, believing in the promises.
And no, I believed in the 10-point program. That is what I was preaching all the time. That is why I won Friends for Uganda based on that. And because I was not very much here, and maybe because, you know, the communication was not as good as it is today, for instance, because whatever happens, you know, somewhere, even in a remote place, gets to be known instantly.
Yes.
That was not the case during that time. So it took me time to, you know, to believe that that actually we're on a wrong track. I thought I knew we had challenges.
Yes.
But I thought they were challenges of capacity, not challenges of goodwill.
Well, I think we need to get to Madame Winnie Bortha to also tell us. Winnie, you talked about the coalition that, you know, where the other opposition candidates really, you know, that they manifested that strong spirit for nationalism. And I'm like, no, we do not need to waste these votes. We need to all stand behind His Excellency Lazarus Chakwera, you know, to see that, you know, they change leadership in that country. I want to believe that there were so many promises all these people were trying to do. And since 2019, I am very sure for any serious leader, it is very possible and practical that maybe for the citizens they have started to spot a few of those, those promises being implemented. I am talking about the physical, physical progress, physical impact. In Malawi, are you able to notice that some of the things this coalition was trying to promise the citizens of that country, they are really focused on that, or they were way back abandoned? Please, Winnie.
No, to answer your question straightforward, the answer is unfortunately no. When we saw the manifestos, because it is a coalition of different political parties with different manifestos and all that, but then we have major political parties like the Malawi Congress Party and the UTM, which the UTM belonged to the former Vice President, and Malawi Congress Party to the current President, Lazarus Chakwera, which are the biggest political parties with beautiful manifestos, beautiful promises to the citizenry, and they really had attractive documents, and they really had attractive points that they were using during campaign. And then they also sounded very patriotic, and everybody really believed them. They were literally credible people to take Malawi to the promised land, as they put it, as they used to put it during the campaign period. Unfortunately, they've really done nothing. No single thing promised during the campaign has been delivered to date. What we're seeing at the moment is the opposite. Well, I remember one crucial thing is that the price of fertilizer will be subsidized. Up to this day, we have seen the price of fertilizer tripling, which the opposite. We were also told as citizens that the economy will be looked at critically, so that maybe people should not, the lives of people should improve, even in typical rural areas. People were promised that, and unfortunately, life is so tough. Life is very expensive. The Malawi currency, they are paying so badly to other currencies and all that. So we have literally seen nothing coming this far from what they promised. Nothing has been delivered. They promised better lives, but what we're seeing now is hard stuff on the ground. Apart from the fertilizer, because Malawi is agro-based and we have a lot of people relying on farming, that was the main issue that people were looking forward to have subsidized farm inputs. Unfortunately, nothing of that sort is happening up to this day, and we're going into another growing season, but nothing has happened, and you have the price of fertilizers tripling, which is so worrisome. Again, life is expensive, as I put it, as compared to the time we were in the Peter Mutharika regime. Things are just going on worse, and worse. This is the president who preached so much highly against nepotism, and then you have him appointing his relations, his daughter into a diplomatic position, his son-in-law into a job at State House. You see, so he's doing quite stuff that he was preaching against, and unfortunately, he's doing them very. If I can put it that way, that he's doing it a little bit more bad than me.
Let me chip in a little bit. I remember what happened in last time, during the time of Mutharika. There was that kind of, they call it extravagance, that, that extreme, spending, where I had a son who could, spend billions of money in clubs and bars, the first son. I know you know that story. And yes. So what do you think causes this? Could it be that there are so many privileges in that that really blindfold these people? What happens exactly? Why do you think it is like that? One time, Mr. Museveni said that the problem of Africa is one group coming. You promise earth on heaven, but you actually perform worse. You perform worse than the previous group. So why is it like that? What is really happening? What is the problem?
what the problem is, to answer your question, is what I've seen is politicians are all the same. They promise change. They preach to us the word that we want to hear, and they promise us to get us into promised land. I mean, we all look forward to have a better life, and then to us this picture of what they know, that is not what they are really. All the same, because as you put it, like what happened, I also don't know, because when we talk about the current president, Lazarus Chakwera was most on speaking against this house, the person who was preaching against nepotism. He was the person who was preaching against the president's children taking positions in government and being in the forefront, spending public money. He was that man. Unfortunately, he's the same man who is doing the things that he was preaching against. So politicians will say things they want to hear during campaign, and they would not implement those things when they are in power. Unfortunately, this is what happens, and the trend is the same in most countries. What they do during campaigns is not what they do when they are in power. I don't know, maybe power intoxicates, and then they have a better access to public money, for taxes and all that, and unfortunately, they abuse that. So what we've seen in this country is like, these people are all the same. We really loved Chakwera. We gave him all the votes that we could have, and he really won with the landslide because people believed in him and he's running in it. Unfortunately, they are really behaving differently from what they promised, and they are behaving worse than the Mutarikans. Unfortunately. So I don't know what happens with.
Go ahead, Winnie. Well, I think there is a fundamental problem now.
Yes.
Because after we had even were excited, like I think we need to benchmark from Malawi and to try to do that coalition. I think when you need to come back, you need to tell us if I take you back to what happened in Uganda, the coalition we found that like for the coalition that took place between Kabaka Yeka and the UPC, after leaving for a short while, then one partner in the coalition had to turn against another partner. How is it that side? Is the coalition still intact, or it has emerged into another opposition again? Trying to oppose the sitting regime.
There are a lot of cracks actually at the moment. The only people that we've seen close is the president and his vice. But remember, this is a coalition of about 8 political parties. And we've seen these other political parties complaining that they're not enjoying the same share that these other 2 major political parties are enjoying. I mean, that is a sign that they were promised a lot of things, and then their colleagues, their counterparts who are senior in this coalition are not delivering. So we've seen a lot more of divisions, especially for the other political parties who feel they are being dumped systematically and all that. So we are waiting. Actually, we're still watching and monitoring, because the relationship is just between the Malawi Congress Party and UTM, which are the major political parties in this coalition. But then the other political parties have been complaining, even in the media, stories have been published that these other political parties are also complaining, because we have the Alliance for Democracy, we have the People's Party. The People's Party belongs to the former president, Dr. Joyce Banda. She is also in the same coalition, but we have seen her in other forums preaching against this government. So, I mean, that is a sign that this coalition is at the verge of collapsing. Now that these other smaller political parties are in the alliance are speaking against the regime, I mean, that is a sign that not everything is okay. Because I understand people were promised diplomatic jobs. Unfortunately, those promises were given elsewhere other than these other political parties. People were promised ministerial positions, people were promised money and all that. So I think, as my colleague put it, that coalitions are done for convenience's sake, and once that is done, once they achieve what they were meant for, some people are dumped in the process, and then people get frustrated, and then breakaways happen. So you've been seeing so far, but major cracks are yet to be seen, and I can promise you that we're gonna see that soon.
Winnie, where does this leave Peter Mutharika? Does this strengthen Peter Mutharika and his loyalists? Do we see a strong comeback of Peter Mutharika because he has now seen, and even the population is, of course, I remember a few years were in Zimbabwe, and people were like, no, I think Mugabe was bad, but I think we would handle life with Mugabe rather than handling it with, Mnangagwa. It's unfortunate we have not been able to have Honorable Nelson Chamisa on the show. Well, do we see Peter Mutharika's come back, and of course, when he's much stronger, because it seems now the opposition, it has betrayed itself, and the public seem to have lost confidence and trust in it?
If we continue like this, the incumbents are strengthening DPP, Mutharika, obviously. If they continue like this, if they're not going to, Peter Mutharika's party is going to bounce back, because people will make comparisons. I can promise you that if things do not change, life is going to go tougher than this. Life is going to go expensive than this. And people will remember that, then would rather go back to the Mutharika regime. People are making comparisons. And discourses have been happening. People have been talking on social media. They would be like, I would rather have Peter Mutharika back. People have been talking about these things. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, if we continue like this, this is going to be a blessing to Peter Mutharika's DPP. And they are going to come back.
Well, thank you so much, Winnie. And Winnie is a senior journalist based in Malawi, and she has moved to different parts of the country, the continent, in and outside actually Africa. So she's an experienced senior journalist. Well, I think I love the submission from Winnie. It's like she's giving us the true picture of a typical African leader. What is happening in Malawi does not only affect the opposition politicians in that country, but I think it's a signal, it's an indication, it's an indicator that maybe there is a problem with they call it a gene or the DNA within all the politicians in Africa. There is
political culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where does this leave people like you who are struggling to see things change? With that experience Winnie has been sharing with us.
You see, I can hear Winnie's frustration because the president promised and he has not delivered. He has negated. He has actually gone against his promises, yes, according to her.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge is that the promises, the talk, even the frustration that I hear, is about sharing positions. It is not about, the people of Malawi. And as long as you are talking, all the talk is about sharing positions, then, they will keep on out-competing each other.
Each other, yes.
That is why I think that, especially you in the media, you can help us shift the conversation to a different narrative. Because whether the former president comes back, how is it going to help the people? It won't help. So I believe that it is very, very important to actually hold the leaders accountable. It is not acceptable that you appoint your own daughter, your own son, in your own government.
Just like we have a first lady who is also
the
Minister of Education.
Exactly, exactly. First and foremost, it is a conflict of interest because you cannot even be able to discipline your own, your own wife or your own daughter or son. It is difficult to discipline.
True.
And also, it is important, we need to take some lessons from countries like Singapore. Singapore tells you how they did it, and they have done it. They were at the same level as Uganda. at the time of independence. Now they're in the first world. They are ready and willing to share their experience, but we don't want to hear.
And Uganda is moving backwards to run away from being a third country to a fourth country.
Yeah.
Well, yes. It is the Hotline Show. Every Monday, we are always here to look into different issues that we think will really contribute to making Africa, Uganda and Africa, of course, better places for all of us. We believe that it is you and me to change this country to what we want it to be, and of course the entire African continent. Like across Africa, the question of leadership and governance remains unanswered, and this calls for that fresh discussion, fresh minds to discuss the proper trajectory for this country, just away from the usual things. We've had many of the narrative, the discussions, especially if you give the president of Uganda an opportunity to speak. If you give him an hour, he's going to spend 40 minutes talking about the Bush War, something which is, you would think that now that discussion has been outdated.
Exactly.
There are so many things we would really expect the president to speak. And I think it's not only here. If you go to Cameroon, what is happening there. The man is as old as our president here. So, they're also struggling. So it is... There is a problem, and I think it is a generational problem. This country needs to phase out that generation. We take them into retirement rather than having them retire into leadership. What happens like in such a time? These presidents they have grandchildren, they have families, and these people need them. So instead of retiring, going to their country homes, they retire and look after the bazukuru, Bazukuru, Malawi, Bazukuru means the grandchildren. They've chosen instead to retire in a state house, which is really wrong.
But let me tell you that actually that is not the question. Because if you look at all of them, they started when they were very young. So if it was a question of youth, Africa would be in a very good shape, because we have had youthful leaders who have grown into real dictators, So it is not, I think it is a question of character.
Actually, there is this gentleman called Valentino, the former president of Sierra Leone. He became a president at 25 years. Right now he's a pauper. I'm sorry to use that maybe for lack of a better word. Right now he's a pauper in his own country, but he's a former president. He went to the US and those Western countries. He was deported, like, no, you're not welcome here.
Yeah, so what I'm saying, you see, if we look at the issue of age, the issue of tribe, the issue of religion, then we shall not get anywhere. We must talk about character, because in all those, they are good and bad. So we must be able, therefore, to identify the good, and the good must rally together in order to cause a fundamental change, real change, and build a foundation for this country and for the countries in Africa. So, otherwise, people like, General Museveni, he was still youthful. He was 40-something. Many of us, started off when we were in our early 30s. And, people like Mjisha Muntu, he became Army commander when he was 28, 29?
28, 29, yes.
Yes. So it is not a question of how old you are, but what character are you? Are you a dependable person? Do you say something and stick to it? Are you corrupt or honest?
What criteria are we going to use to look for that character within our leaders?
Track record. Look at people's track record.
Well, we need to go for a very short commercial break, and of course we'll be coming back for another hour. And of course we have Winnie Bortha online. She'll be also sharing more about Malawi. And still in the studios we have Madam Edith Ssempala. We thank you for being part of the discussion. And we see the comments coming through on Facebook. And of course there are good comments from the Facebook family appreciating Madam Ambassador, and of course those appreciating Madam Winnie Bortha for, for sharing the experience of Malawi. And I think there is a lot that we can learn from the experiences. Well, let's go for a very short break and we'll be returning in a short while.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba amasannyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna ssaawa 11 paka ssaawa 1 ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda, baganda baffe, bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdalla Tiff and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Well, welcome back from that break, and we have to continue with our discussion, looking at political coalitions and the effectiveness in Africa. Just like we discussed in the first hour, of course, a lot has happened on the African continent. Much has been said, and of course we have had a number of leaders. They come, this group comes, the other one goes, but the fundamental question has not been answered right. The question of who is that real person, really, who can steer the country, who can steer the continent, to the right full direction that everyone would wish. One time I was having casual discussions with someone who's like, no, I think we are better off with the white men than our own people. No. So it's like, actually I was it was somewhere outside Uganda. And I was like, now look, these people at least have good roads. And all these roads were made by, but all the leaders we've had, nothing has been done. So I think we were better off with those guys than our very own people. And of course, it depends on the kind of person and the kind of lines they put on and how they see things. But really the experience and what is happening on the continent is worrying.
But we have good people. We have good people. If you look at, we have people who are not corrupt. Unfortunately, most of them are outside politics. You have people who are leading in the private sector. You had late Murwana, you have some Ugandans who are managing banks and they are not stealing the money. Yeah, so we have people, except that people must understand that politics is very, very important. It is at the core of everything. So everybody must be interested. And those who are people with good character, with integrity, people who are not corrupt, people who are fair-minded, people who want a future for this country, for their children, grandchildren, and generations to come, they should be interested in politics. That is the problem. We leave politics to those who want to loot, because now it has become a business. It is no longer really, it is not politics. It is business. That is where you earn most of the money. And therefore, they go there. And then we who have elected them, knowing them, actually, in most cases, they bribe us in order for us to vote for
put
them.
In those positions.
And when they go there, they forget us. They remember us again when the time for other votes has arrived.
Because they bribed you.
Yes, and so we all have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
We as Ugandans, as Africans, we have to take responsibility. It is not true that there are no Africans who are credible, who have, who can manage well, who are not greedy. They are there.
Those people are there.
Yeah.
But now the problem comes in identifying them. You see,
yes, you can identify them.
There is one problem. I don't know, maybe since you're into active politics, maybe you'll help us and the viewers to understand this. There is a problem here, especially in Uganda. Of course, we'll get Winnie's view on this. People, people moved away from the politics of ideology. People believe in so-and-so is popular. There is that. Politics has lost its core value. People, instead, where you expect people to vote and listen like, yes, this person says this and this and this. And now people have moved to, personalities.
That is a big challenge.
Yes. How are you ready to deal with that? Especially with this generation, which is, which can easily be taken away. As ANT, your style of politics, you really have good ideas. Your ideology is really rich, and one would think you really have good intentions for this country. But now the problem comes. How do you convince this average Ugandan? How do you convince a charged youth? How do you convince someone who wants immediate change, someone who wants things to be done there and then? How do you convince those people to believe in the ANT ideology?
It's a question of mindset, and it's not just a question for ANT. It is a question for all of us.
Yeah.
You in the media have a lot of influence.
Yeah.
Use it to cause such conversations to take place, so that people are not just excited, because people have been excited. I remember when Idi Amin came to power, people rejoiced, they danced, they were very happy for a very short time. When, personally I was naive. I think when Milton Obote came back, I thought he had learned a lesson, I thought at least, if he had made a mistake before, the time in exile should have taught him. He came and said he was starting from where he ended. So it looks like people don't even want to learn. They don't learn, they don't want to learn. So I think that it is a question of education, civic education, our duty. It is important because we all, even young people, many young people, they are already fathers or mothers. What do you envision for your children? What do you envision? Even before you go to envisioning a Uganda, envision something for your child.
For your family.
For your child and the grandchild who will come sooner or later, and so forth and so on. So, because we have not, we have not given ourselves an opportunity to have real conversations. of what is it that has eluded us, what is it that we need to do in order to build a foundation for our country. In 25 years, we are going to be more than 100 million people. So you just imagine that. You see, okay, youth, being young, is a temporary thing. We were also young at some stage.
Yes.
Yes. And you are young today, but tomorrow you're not going to be young, you know. So therefore, we must, you know, we must think deeply. We must allow ourselves to think deeply and look at examples of other countries that have made it. It is possible. It is doable. There is nothing inherently African about being corrupt. No. In fact, during, you know, as we were growing up, to hear a permanent secretary, let alone a minister or an official of government stealing government funds, it was unheard of. But now it is the order of the day. Even we parents, we must learn to socialize. You know, your children bring things home. You don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Where are those things coming from?
Yes.
You know, during our time, our parents would, you know, I wouldn't go, I mean, if I picked something and brought it home, they would ask, where is that? Where did you get it from? You know, take it back, you know.
I think, Ambassador, I'm going to request we first keep it at that and we get back to Winnie. She's also online. Winnie, welcome you back from that break. And we need to continue with our conversation. Well, Winnie, what is happening in Malawi is bound to happen somewhere else on the African continent. And there is that excitement that comes when a new leader comes up, and just like the ambassador said, in most cases people tend to give those good speeches, and you know, but we don't tend to look back and like, how was this person 20 years back? What is his or her track record? You know, what was his or her conduct? Like, could you kindly share with us? I know you must have had and seen, you know, this gentleman in the names of His Excellency Lazarus Chakwera, you know, and how he rose to the ladders now. What kind of person was this gentleman before he even came to the political limelight? Hello, Winnie, we can't hear you. Hello, Winnie. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so what I was saying is actually we knew about Lazarus Chakwera because he was into business. I mean, I like putting it into different business. He was a pastor. He is a pastor. He is a man of God. He was the head of the God. We've known him as a leader on the church. There were stories coming from that side, and know that people ignored that when he joined politics because he's good with speeches. He is a good public speaker. He's emotions, and he's a good orator. And I think most Africans can attest to that. Those who have heard him speak, those who have witnessed him speaking at these SADC gatherings, African Union gatherings, the United Nations gatherings. He speaks he presents himself so credible when it comes to leadership, and people may be focused on that. He is good. And then we also have his vice president, Saulos Chilima. Saulos was already the vice president of this country. You know, when it comes to political record, Saulos had a very good political record. You know, spoke publicly then who was his president, him being the vice president. He spoke against corruption in the government while he was within the government. So he became a savior for Malawi. People were like, the man we want and all that. Unfortunately, after all that, the only thing that we've seen as consistency from these two are the good speeches, the good English, and all that. That's the consistency that we've seen. Unfortunately, we had the chance of having Saulo Silima as a vice president, and he gave us an idea that he's a great leader, and he really served the country well as the vice president. There, Peter Mutharika and all. Unfortunately, for the track record of the current president, Rasas Chakwera, as when he was the leader of the assemblies of stage person, there were mixed, reports that not so good. People were, he's good, he's a no-nonsense person, and all that. There were so many records, corruption records, and all that. But people ignored that because he came out as somebody different and all that. So if you talking of background checks and all that. Sometimes those things do not matter when your focus is to unseat a government you don't like. So people would not pay attention to the background of the person. They would focus on the things you're telling them. And then when somebody is blessed with great public speaking skills, they go away with it. And when you have a president that you want out of office badly, you want to play that. These things of background check and all that, they don't come in. They don't come to play. So it depends on how bad your current government is and how desperately do you want that government out.
Well, thank you, Winnie. I think we really thank you for that submission. I think we need to open our lines to those. Yes, you can give us calls if you want to be part of the conversation, or you can call us on 0759 132 310. 0759 132 310. Those using MTN, you can also call on 0789 017 145. Just give us a call and tell us where you're coming from, and then be part of the conversation. Ambassador.
Yes, please.
Winnie says it
depends
on how bad the government is, the sitting government.
And that is the challenge. It means we are not learning. We are emotional, too emotional. I think we need to reduce on emotions and start thinking. Yes.
In the previous elections that were conducted here, there's some constituencies that I know, and the leaders who were elected, they could move to that constituency like, who are you? Like, I am so and so. We voted you on which position? Like, I am your current so and so. Like, oh, really? It is, So I don't know what really
that
now.
That is very unfortunate, because you see, when you are voting for people, you are voting for people who are going to do things that will affect your life. And therefore, I believe that you should put some thought into that, I mean, you can make a mistake by not really knowing them or being hoodwinked and so forth. But, these days, at least we should do due diligence. When people are doing business, in business, when, there is no investor that will invest his money without doing due diligence. Yeah. So why would we do it in politics?
I think this is maybe because of the kind of political environment that has been, deliberately set up, because it is really weird that someone would vote for any person, regardless of, before even knowing what you're capable of doing, and I think this is the excitement now we've been talking about. We need to change the discussion.
Exactly.
We need to change the narrative.
And
the political narrative.
We need to change the narrative. We need people to understand that the people you are voting for, you are voting for your life. You are voting for services, for medication, for yourself and your family, You are voting for the education of your children. You are voting for food, for the air you breathe. Eh? You are voting for your life, therefore. Therefore, put some thought into it.
Yeah.
Don't just, be excited or be, anything that is done out of emotion. Whether it is even a positive emotion, it is bound to be bad.
Now, when we look at ANT as a political party here, I think the way you do your politics is kind of different from the usual politics. I want to believe so. You do not, I don't know whether it is a deliberate or it is by, that's the kind of, it's by nature, like that ANT is, it's your style of doing politics. There is this politics of excitement, and I do not see this happening. Could we attribute that maybe your politics is either too advanced for the current generation? What is really happening? Because with the kind of people in ANT, brains like Ambassador Edith Ssempala, brains like General Mugisha Muntu, brains like Honorable Lasso, and so many people. One would think, what is really, is there something not being done right? At least by now, we would maybe, ANT would be at least have a representation in Parliament. Does it call for a change in the way you do your politics to fit in the current situation, or you need to change the country to fit into your style of politics?
We want to change the country to fit into the politics of transformation, the politics of integrity, the politics for the people of Uganda, where we put people first. That is our, our motto: people first, a new future. So, of course, we were targeted. Everybody knows that, because in some places it was a military operation against some of our, our leaders, like in Arua, like in Tungamo, like in, so I think we are probably targeted because there are people who don't want, the current regime doesn't want change, doesn't want transformation, and they know that is what ANT stands for. So if we want to change the country, to transform the country, that is the kind of politics.
How simple is that task?
It is not easy. It is not easy, because whipping up emotions is much easier, excitement. But causing people or encouraging people to think deeply is not easy. But that is what we need to do for the sake of our country, for the sake of our children and future generations. That is what we need. And that is what countries that have advanced are doing. They are not on emotions. So, and that is why we're saying it is important to change the narrative. You people in the media in particular, you can help cause deep conversations, not just emotions, because it is your responsibility as well as citizens of this country.
Ambassador, going by your words, if you say that you're trying to change, actually to change the country to fit into the politics of transformation, as you ably said it, one would think, wasn't it a rushed decision to have a presidential candidate? I think you would have taken some time to, to engage the citizens and try to change their thinking towards the direction of what you believe in. And maybe the presidential campaigns would be easier for you.
No, you see, we take a step at a time.
You were testing the waters?
Not only testing the waters.
I think you have someone online.
Not testing. There is an echo.
Somebody on the line. Hello?
Yes, hello. Abdalla Tiff and Ambassador Ssempala. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm okay. My name is Roman. I had this to also ask and or share with Ambassador Ssempala. Following your topical discussion in regards to coalitions and whether or not they work, I think that it is very, very strong and a fundamental problem among the African leaders. Most of these coalitions aim at sharing positions rather than sharing remind all of us, I'm sure Ambassador Ssempala might have been here back in the day, in 2007. I was a chairperson of the IPC in one of these streets. There is this whole thing of intellectual dishonesty. Our protocol at the time was clear that every party head that chose to contest for any position wouldn't have any other candidate. So it's so Marike coming for a mayoral seat, definitely against Elias Lukaku at the time who was under Subi. Shockingly, the spokesperson of the IPC then, the Interparty Coalition, and by the names of Rubaramira Ruranga, was clear and said that the IPC's candidate for a mayoral seat of Kampala City was none other than Marike. Shamelessly, then the spokesperson of FDC, Honorable Kemunjunganda, is also on media stations saying that for them they were supporting Elias Lukaku of Subi. So you find this such intellectual dishonesty being one of the stumbling blocks in regards to any coalition. We saw Dr. in one of the rallies having Nabila saying, you see, this is our candidate, but also Shifra Lukaku is also our lawyer in the state. So you wonder, which is which? It is until we fight such intellectual and political dishonesty that such coalitions can also make sense. Finally, I think the time frame for which such coalitions are made also needs to be revised. You wait for them, you will be shocked. Now they'll begin such 2025 around September, when elections will be like a month or so to come in. There is a lot to be done by political parties and all these forces. Otherwise, I also want to ask Ambassador Ssempala on whether she is contented with the strategy that ANC is applying. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norman, and we thank you for being part of the show. And I think we'll be taking 2 more calls, I think. Then we proceed with the conversation. So, Ambassador, I think maybe this should go to Winnie before I bring you in. Winnie, hope you someone on the line? Hello? Okay, I think we need to go to Winnie. You need to tell us what would be the rightful time for any coalition to take place. I think maybe if there is time, to prepare, you can also use that opportunity to look through the kind of persons you have and like, no, I think so and so is not a reliable person. Yes, someone on the line. Hello? Yes, hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Your name and where you're calling from, sir? Katongole from Machindi. Yes, sir. Katungula, I beg your pardon. I think your line is not so clear. Kindly just rephrase the statement. We're not getting you clearly. Please say it again.
Now I'm asking.
Yes.
Ambassador Edith is looking for those ones like Dr. Madam Ingrid did, which was under Dr.
Oh, okay.
Because we've seen Madam Ingrid fighting with the police, saying that I'm helping women who are not helped in this country. It was given by the regime that she was fighting. Later she withdrew from the arrest.
Thank you, Katongole.
If that's the case, then I would like to tell Edith not to waste women's time, not to waste our time as youth. Then concentrate on certain treatment we want to do so that they can be able to develop, to generate wealth
as she did because she's our ambassador.
Well, thank you so much, Katongole.
Yes. We think those people don't need to waste our time. As Madam Winnie said that vocals do like the former president did, for example, Dr. Edith was a vocalist, and so he was moving on soliciting more moving people. People also say no.
I think, Katongole, you've made your point.
This country, we are focused, we know where we are going, the country is on the right path. So we need to disorganize the peace and democracy that we have in this country. We need to, what we need is to come up with an aim. What is so missing so that you can come up, we discuss the ideology so that we can be able to create. We don't need to waste time for people, really, Madam Ambassador.
Which ideology are you talking about, sir?
Thank you very much.
We have lost Katongole, but
I think it is
NRM ideology. Well, I think before Ambassador comes in, Katongole said that you should not waste time for the youth. I think Ambassador is not standing for any youth position, and
yes.
I believe she'll answer that. Well, Katongole says you're looking for relevance. Like someone he mentioned who was seeking relevance from Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. I don't know under what angle Katongole raises such a question, but yes, it came direct to you.
Yeah, I think he doesn't know me because I have never sought any relevance anywhere. I know who I am. I'm a child of God, and that is good enough.
Children of God are disappointing. You heard what Winnie told us.
Yeah, but that is personal, Yeah, so I think he probably thinks I'm competing with young people from that question. But no, I'm not. I'm not seeking to occupy any space. I was requested. I'm on interim basis. I would actually, if Uganda had been in a good, as we had hoped, I would have retired. So I think Mr. Katongole should be at peace. No, yes, some of us really, I don't need anything. What I need is to enjoy a country that I fought so much for, and that is all I need. I don't need money. I'm not money hungry. I'm not greedy. Those who know me, and he can also check. So, yeah, I think that is really.
Would you be interested in any political office?
No, I'm not. Yes, hello. I'm not interested. I'm not going to stand for the office.
Well, someone on the line, hello.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Good evening, how are you, sir? Your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, this is Arnold from Kansanga, Kampala, Uganda.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my question goes to Miss Winnie Bortha from Malawi.
Winnie Bortha,
yes, she's a journalist.
Yeah.
My question goes is through her profession as a journalist. Politicians benefit from such coalition without individualism and self-seeking motives and ideologies, because it seems African leaders are more interested for personal gains than their natives. So as journalists, in what perspective can they shape the debate and politics of the continent? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we thank you for being part of the show. I think we should go to Winnie Bortha. The question came direct to you. As a journalist, how are you shaping the discussion in your country to make sure that you steer it to the right direction? Much as I know journalists, you did a great role to ensure that you usher in, I mean, you played your role. You did a great contribution to changing leadership in that country. And I believe now you're disappointed, just like you've been, sharing it with us. Now, the caller says, how are you shaping the discussion to ensure that maybe you get the better regime that fits the current times? Over to you, Winnie.
Yeah, I think as expected, the media has been reporting, we have been writing different acts, we have been writing opinions as journalists, we have been reminding these leaders of what they've been promising Malawians during their campaign period. They even had timelines to these promises. So we have been reminding that, the timeline that you promised the citizenry that you're going to deliver these promises is coming to an end. What is happening? We have been writing consistently, objectively about these things. And I can promise you that we will still be writing about these things as we've been writing in the previous regimes. Actually, this government also promised to have a cabinet reshuffle in the first months after the cabinet was appointed. I can tell you that that has never happened. The cabinet has never been reshuffled and all that, but we have had stories reminding and even asking him during press conferences that you promised Malawians that you will put out cabinet ministers that are not delivering. What is happening now? And the president has been giving funny responses to those things. So, given a chance where you have a space to ask the president a question, journalists have been asking questions. These questions that Malawians out there are asking, and at the same time, we have been writing stories that Malawians are expecting that you deliver the promises that you promised. I can tell you that nothing has been done so far, but we have been writing and we're still writing objectively.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Now, one other question before I cross back to Ambassador Edith here in the studios. Winnie, what do you think would be the rightful time for these coalitions to take shape? Because in most cases, these coalitions, they're made a few months towards the elections. And of course, there is no room to keenly look into the other partners and like, well, I don't think so-and-so is fit to be in this. What do you think, in your own view, what do you think would be the rightful moment for these coalitions to really take shape?
I would answer that question in twofold. In an ideal setup, where you have people with pure motives, you have pure patriots, those who want to change the government, those who want to deliver what the people expect. You rather have a way before the elections. Actually, I don't know how long the term of a president ends in Uganda. But in Malawi, it's 5 years. So you rather have form your coalition 5 years, and then you start going into the campaign, strengthen your coalition, move together as people who have the common goal. That is in an ideal setup. Unfortunately, because these coalitions are done with the motive just sit government and then taking over for personal gains, then I would rather advise that maybe because people want to act to surprise the other people that we are going into a coalition, and then the other parties to the election should take it as a surprise before they prepare, before they know the coalition, and then they can't go around campaigning against that coalition. Maybe if your motives are not as pure and not as good, you go by surprise, surprising the opponents. But in a setup where your motives are so pure, I know that you do that area, you have to engage with the people, you move together as a team. The area you do it as a coalition, you know that these people we're moving together, we indeed advancing for the common agenda. Those who are not for the agenda will be dropping out in the process. You'll be sieving, and they're putting out those people who are distractors while you're feeding your focus. So a good coalition, if you ask me, they would plan in advance. way ahead, way before the elections. But those that have the motives for personal gains, they come in as a surprise to surprise the opponent so that they take over.
Well, Winnie, maybe one other question before I cross back this side. You said as journalists, you're trying to do your best to write about these things, to ask those hard questions to the leaders. And unfortunately, in other countries, when journalists try to become so much inquisitive, they are always labeled like those who are anti-government. Have you experienced that in Malawi as well?
Actually, that has been happening where you have journalists being questioned by the Inspector General of Police, calling them writing negative stories about the president, about because anything in disagreement with the presidency is looked at as. So you have a chief of police summoning journalists to question them and threaten them. We know that happens a lot. But the fortunate part, though, is with the presidents, in this country, you have journalists enjoying freedom of the press a lot. So for them to pounce on that at the moment, it's kind of difficult. So what they do is just threaten and then leave them, and people will still write. And then they'll be reminded that although I was assigned, I was summoned by the Inspector General of Police, blah blah blah. But what we're saying is this. So with that, and with that, they get embarrassed that now the public knows that we've been summoning journalists and all that, and they leave the media alone. So we have had cases of the police chief summoning journalists, but at the moment they are tired because people are still writing, and there is a precedence of freedom of the press in this country, and I don't think they can play around with that at the moment.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Winnie is based in Atlanta, that is in Malawi, in the country that calls them the country of unity and freedom. And they also call it, there is the warm heart of Africa. That's how they call themselves, yes, the warm heart of Africa. And well, thank you so much. Now, Madam Ambassador Edith, these coalitions have always taken shape, and in most cases they've been done just a few months towards the elections. What do you think would be the most ideal time for these coalitions and such engagements and discussions to kick off?
I think I would agree with Winnie, but it is not even first and foremost a question as to when, as to what is the purpose, or what is its foundation. Because we have talked about marriages of convenience or coalitions of convenience, just to capture power. So I think when people don't agree, don't share values, don't share objectives, don't share a vision, it is very difficult for them to work together sustainably,
There must be that compatibility.
Yes, so they must be compatible. And I think it is possible to form coalitions where each group can stay, maintain its own identity, but also, work together for the common good.
Yeah.
Now, as far as ANT is concerned, we believe that it is very important also to join strength. That is why I think I go to the question that was asked by Norman, what is, whether I'm satisfied with the strategy and plan of ANT. ANT's plan, first and foremost, is to build a foundation. We want to build structures from grassroots upwards. We want to engage our people, for people to understand even why they would want to join ANT. We do not want to coerce anybody, but people should voluntarily find that this is the party that shares its values. Personally, I joined ANT because of values. nobody recruited me really. I just saw my values hanging out
And
there,
like, this is where you
and
fit.
I said, yeah, that is where I fit. I didn't expect to become a leader for the Women in League. I didn't go in for, that was not the purpose of me joining ANT. I joined ANT because of the unfinished business that we started in 1986. That, building a country, a democratic country, a country that is zero tolerant to corruption, a country that, we can proudly pass on to the future generations. So I just say, because I actually struggled with that because I wanted to keep quiet and hide. But then, if we all hide, who is going to do it? We are in a struggle for the future of this country, for the heart of this nation.
Well,
that is what the struggle is about. It is not about sharing jobs and, and whatever. If we can build a good country, then the fruits will be available for all of us.
Well, when you say that you joined ANT because you felt you have that, the duty to make your contribution in building on what started in 1986, shall we really be able to notice and see your contribution to building that when the construction is still going by the other group?
I don't, I was actually happened to be an activist for NRM. I was in Sweden at that time. I was a very young woman with very small 1 and 3 year old children. And what motivated me, I was looking at my children. Of course, they could stay in Sweden, become Swedish citizens, and enjoy the fruits of the Schengen, the Swedish, the Swedish government, those who built their system. But I thought that as a mother, even if I did not work towards securing a country that they can call their own, I would have failed them. Initially, that is actually what motivated me. Later on, of course, then I understood more and grew up, politically and so forth. But, I also, as an African, when you look at other countries and they're democratic and their economies are functioning and there is minimal corruption, I mean, maybe there is no country which has zero corruption, but very minimal, which does not affect the citizens, then you wonder what is wrong with us Africans. And yet you have gone to school with those people, and you know that, they have nothing special. God did not create them any more special than us. So that is, that is a question we all have to ask ourselves.
There is a comment that came through here that isn't Ambassador Edith speaking this because she's no longer, part of the system. Maybe she was eventually, she was yes, maybe perhaps, maybe she was, and that's why it's like the anger, that frustration because after losing the ambassadorial position.
No, first of all, I'm not angry. I don't believe in anger. Anger does not produce anything good. Secondly, I was not dropped. I resigned and went to the World Bank in 2008. So I wasn't dropped. But even if I had been dropped, as long as I had been dropped for the right reason, for the reason like, a person like Honorable Sarah Chiinji, she was dropped because she refused changing term limits. That is a good thing to be dropped for. If you are dropped for that, that is a good thing to be dropped for. Yes. So I think, maybe there are people who are happy with the system and they are benefiting. to the extent that they cannot even think about their children and the future generations. I think that is their right. But, that is not the kind of a person I want to be.
Ambassador, how many years of active service did you really?
I was 22 years.
You were an ambassador for 22 years?
Yeah.
And for all the 22 years, everything was okay with you?
No, it was not that everything was okay. I was working very hard to build that ideal country. In fact, I used to say, because since I lived in Sweden, and my democratic awareness started in Sweden, I wanted the country to be like Sweden. Because Sweden was, during my time, was a country that didn't have beggars. It was democratic, respect for human rights, a good system, no beggars on the street, an economy that was, it is a welfare, they have a welfare system, and they had an economy that could sustain the welfare. And so I liked it. It was very fascinating because I believe in social justice. I believe in human beings being fine. I don't mind, people working to any levels, becoming billionaires as long as they work for it. But I also think that a government worth calling a government must take care of the least. Nobody should be a pauper.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Edith, and we need to go back to Madame Winnie Bortha. Winnie, we need to hear from you. Kindly, there is this new trend in Africa where there is that politics of excitement, and what are the voting patterns? What are the factors that really determine the way people vote? Is it out of excitement like it is witnessed in different places of the continent? Do really people look for values or things, everything is on the flip side? How is it there?
Yeah, at the moment I can see people, these days, people think a lot. Unfortunately, how good you are with your manifesto will get you through. And that's how we've ended up with the current regime in Malawi. They were speaking well, they had the youth covered in there, they promised 1 million jobs, they had a very good manifesto, and people, even the critical things, would look at that critically, and then they were easily bought. So people look at those things, the things you promised them and all that. Politics of handouts, this side, no, they don't work. People will get what you give them. They will not necessarily vote for you because you give them handouts. It doesn't work like that these days, this side in Malawi. But mostly it's what you promise, how you back it, and how you present it. People look at it critically and all that. So the voting patterns in Malawi have changed depending on what you promise. How are you going to be different from the current regime? That's what matters a lot. And mostly if you appeal to young people, you're likely going to get the day, because young people in Malawi are now shaping the political narrative, the political landscape. We've seen, because I understand the new government, this government that we have now, even when they were having a case in court, it was young people staging demonstrations and all that. Young lawyers who were feeding the senior lawyers in the court with information and evidence. Even young IT people are the ones who fought the Malawi Electoral Commission system. It was mostly young people. So if you appeal to young voters, mostly you're gonna get the light of the day, because we have, I think, a good population of voters is young in Malawi. So when you're giving out money, handouts, because the DPP regime, the DPP candidates were splashing out money, parties, bashes, beer, and all that. People drank the beer, people received money across the country, but we lost. And Razas Chakwera never gave out money, never splashed out parties, and all that, but he still won. He got the young vote. So it depends on what you promise and how you present it and how you package it and how you promise to deliver it, what really matters. Again, another negative thing that I've noticed being working as a journalist in Malawi when it comes to voting is where you come from also matters. I have seen leaders who come from the southern part of Malawi and those who come from the central part of Malawi having an advantage of winning the poll as compared to leaders who come from the northern part of Malawi. People from the northern part of Malawi are in a minority as compared to the two regions. So that also matters most of the times. When you have a candidate who comes from the, it becomes a bit difficult for them to carry the day unless if they come in as a running mate to someone who comes from the other two regions. I think that's the only job that we still have in this country, people voting based on originality or regional politics.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Ambassador, well, that is in Malawi now. When we come back here, on the neighborhood here in Kenya, you find that their voting is really, much as they have political parties play, a very minute role in the whole thing. Their politics is so much driven by, tribes, those ethnic groups on that side. And do you see that coming here? Because, of course, we've had those tribal narratives here. Hey, we, the so-and-so group, we are for this, Then we, the so-and-so group, is for... Do you see that happening here like it is in Kenya? As we wind up?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Why? Because there are good and bad people in every tribe. There's no tribe of... maybe we need to create a tribe of good people or people who are zero tolerance to corruption. Yes. So when you choose a person based on their, tribe or their religion, you're bound to be disappointed because, you may choose them because they are your, they are the same religion, but they don't share your values. They may be your religion, but don't share your values of integrity. So that is why I believe that we should really work very hard to move towards politics, quality of quality, not quantity, politics of values, because we all need values. Those values are the ones which deliver the kind of services that we need.
Ambassador, I need to have your, I'm afraid we need to get out of here. I need to get your last word, and then we move to Winnie Bortha to also give us her closing, her last word. Yeah,
first of all, to thank you very much for choosing such a topic.
Thank you.
And also making it African. When you're out there, actually nobody knows whether you're Ugandan or Malawian or whatever. They see black and that's it. But also the promise of Africa. We must not stop dreaming for a better future. But that dream must be accompanied by action. We must work very hard. It is up to all of us to really deliver our countries and for the future generations. We have wasted a good 50, in the case of Uganda, 59 years. We cannot afford for your generation now to hand over the same kind of things that some of us feel guilty that we're handing over. So it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of conversation. It is a struggle. But it is a struggle that we can win, and it is doable. It has been done elsewhere. It can be done here as well. Thank you so much. Winnie, I need to get your last comment. We have run out of time, and so we need to get out of here. I just need to get your last word.
Hello, Winnie.
This is a good program. I really enjoyed it. Hope we have a lot of engagement in the future. But my last words, I think I should speak to in Africa. Politics, they should stop using politics as a source of enrichment, as a source of cashing in or cashing out for their personal gains. People always that when they're joining politics, they want to make a difference. If you're not ready to make a difference, if you want to cash in on in politics or on taxes and all that, if you know deep down in your heart, then you don't join politics. Politics, and they've branded it as, hey, politics is a dirty game. Politics shouldn't be a dirty game. Politics should be a service. Politics should be a calling. I think Africa now should wake up. Once we are, as Africans, once we usher in a government and then they start behaving differently from what they promise us, we can always, no matter how early it is, let's show them that we're not sleeping cats. We observe and we monitor. Once they behave differently from what we expected, let's put them out. Usher in another government, they behave differently, we put them out until we get better ones. Let's not get tired. The war continues, as they say it in Mozambique. A luta continua. Let's keep the fire burning. Let's keep fighting as Africans. We should not tolerate. I like this like nonsense. Thank you so much.
It has been a great pleasure to have Winnie Bortha from Blantyre in Malawi, and also having Ambassador Edith Ssempala. We are really privileged on behalf of the Alternative Uganda to have you people being part of the conversation. And I also want to thank those who have been able to follow us on YouTube, in Facebook, and for those who have been able to share their comments. We really thank you. The Hotline Show runs every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. And for now, I want to say good night.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.